The Conrad model of the Liebherr Mk88 mobile construction crane was first seen at the Balmer exhibition in 2010 and was generally available later that year. This version has a few detailed revisions, which will be described later. Included with the model is a good detailed instruction sheet and a couple of pages describing the model's electronics, and the model itself is contained in a nice black foam rubber box with the parts all nicely packaged. We'll start by having a look at the crane in its fully rigged transport configuration rather than as it comes out of the box. The key changes to the model in this revision are the wheel hubs, which are more detailed. You can see the little holes in the wheel there. And this handrail is now yellow instead of silver on the earlier version. The real crane is a complicated piece of engineering, and this has been reflected through in the model's construction as well. And you can see how detailed it is and how intricate some of the mechanical connections are in this model. As a model, it poses really well just folded up like this when it's in transport mode. But if you look closer, some of the details are really quite nice. You can see that at the back you've got various textures on the upper surfaces, and there's a ladder and some graphics on the outriggers. Looking underneath the model, there's no great attempt to provide detail, and the effort's really concentrated on making the steering functional, and each axle steers independently, as you can see, so you can have crab steering like that if you want. The outriggers pull out, and there's one just a little bit stiff there, but they are metal and they can pull out. There are a couple of other features worth looking at on the carrier. These outrigger spreader plates are stored on both sides, and they just pull out. They're made of plastic, and there's also quite a neat little fold down ladder, which is also quite pleasant. With the outriggers extended, you can see how the spreader plates are just used underneath the pads. We'll now go through a sequence of rigging the crane as it comes out of the box. So with the outriggers out, first thing we need to do is to raise the tower, and you can see the cab slides up and down the ladder, and you insert a pin to lock the tower into place. With the tower vertical, the next step is to raise the telescopic section. This just pulls out. There may be a little bit of stiffness the first time you do it, as maybe the paint's a little bit sticky or whatever, but then you can put this U-shaped clip in, and that locks the tower in place at its full height. So now you've got the whole tower fully extended, and the next step is then to reeve up the jib erection. Next, the key is put in for the jib drum, and you unwind the jib raising gear, which is already reeved by Conrad, so it's just a matter of stretching it out and unwinding it, and then popping it up at the top, where it just clips together, just like that, and then you just rest it on that support bar that sticks out. One great idea that Conrad have come up with are these little plastic clips which prevent the reeved lines tangling while you get them out of the box, and this is so much better than fiddly tapes and other things that are used. Now the jib can be raised by winding in on a drum, and you can see the drum's got a positive action brake. You push it in and wind it, and then when it drops back into place, it engages the side and is a positive brake, which is good. So to unfold the jib, a two-stage process is followed. You wind a bit at the bottom, and then near the top of the tower you unwind a drum that lets the outer portion of the jib down, and then you can wind up a bit more on the bottom, and then once the outer jib is just freed up enough, again you can let some more out, and you'll see that it begins to slowly but surely forming the straight jib shape, and you keep doing that a little bit in turn on each drum, and gradually you get the jib out erected. Now this is quite interesting on the model, because unusually the real crane can set itself up completely from arriving on site in about 15 minutes, and actually it will be a struggle to do that with the model. So this is one of those rare times when setting up the model actually takes probably longer than the real crane takes to be erected. As we go along, the mechanical complexity of the model becomes clear, and it's also really quite a large model when it's fully erected. From end to end, it's around 1 metre wide, and it probably stands about 70 centimetres high, and it can be made even higher actually, because the jib can be set at a luffed angle. So here is the jib fully stretched out, and you can see how straight it is, which really is an excellent piece of model engineering if you consider how difficult it must be to make this in 1:50 scale. The last thing to install on the tower is the ladder, which also forms the running track for the cab, which can go up and down the tower. On the real machine this is a telescopic ladder, but it would be too difficult to get that to work properly in 1:50 scale. And with the ladder in place, you can see that the cab just smoothly rides up and down. The next step is to attach the hoist rope for the cab, which runs from the drum at the top. You just unwind it and then just tie it off on the loop on the cab roof. Now we have just a few parts to install at the bottom. There's an extra counterweight piece that just clips onto the back, and there's a handrail which just slots into place in a couple of preformed holes. It's a metal handrail. And at the front we have the driving cab mirrors just to install on both sides, and at the back we have a carrying tray which just slots into place. And finally we get to the last rigging task, which is the hook. So the first thing to do is to take some thread from the hoist drum, which is taped on the way Conrad usually like to just keep it on with a bit of tape when it comes out of the factory. So you can just pull that out and take it up to the top of the tower, and then you just need to carefully thread it through, pull it, and then feed it over the little pulley that just exists at the top of the tower. And when you've passed it through there, you can then put it over the trolley and reeve up the hook. But this is quite a bit fiddly to do it this way, so there is actually a rather better and quicker way to do it than that. And the thing to do really is just to take the thread straight to the end of the jib and tie it off, having already put it through the hook, and then take the trolley and just feed the hook straight through the trolley so that the thread is automatically on the pulleys, and then you can just clip the trolley on to the jib and the job's done. Now you can hang the Liebherr flag that's provided with the model to give the hook a little bit of weight, and using the key in the winch drum in the body you can raise and lower the hook. Perhaps it's a little bit of a pity that the trolley itself isn't controlled by a winch, but you can position it any way you like by hand. There is one more feature on the model, and it is a particular innovation by Conrad, and that's the use of electronics. And in this case it's used to drive the orange beacon lights on the driving cab roof, which can be made to flash. So the first thing to do is to install some batteries which are provided with the model, and these go into the battery compartment, which is where the engine would normally be. And you can just put the lid on, and you can see that as soon as I installed the batteries there, the orange lights started flashing. And you can switch them off by taking the roof of the driving cab off, and inside there's a little printed circuit board, and there's a very small switch contained in there which is best to use a pointer on, and it's just a simple on and off switch, so you can switch the lights off and then install the cab roof back on again. Conrad have made a good job of implementing this new idea, because the flashing lights do look quite good. Perhaps the on-off switch would have been better in a slightly more accessible place, because with the tower down it's hard to reach. But on display the model looks good, and it'll be interesting to see whether this feature is applied to any other models in the future. In conclusion, the Liebherr MK88 is a complex machine in full scale, and Conrad have done a very good job to implement it in 1:50 scale. It's very well engineered, and it's got the interesting innovation of the flashing lights, all of which probably combine to make it perhaps a bit pricey. But having said that, it's certainly highly recommended.